The name is T-Don. Let me start out that I grew up in Alabama, but I attended Florida State due to in-state tuition rates and not a super high GPA. LOL. I still follow both teams, but I'm not an SEC homer. You were discussing the alliance on the January 27th podcast, and I thought about the possibility of 2 Power 5 national champions. Would this ever be possible if the alliance got locked out of the SEC in scheduling and started their own playoff and their own national championship game? A reminder, the alliance is the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12. It appears to me that the SEC is headstrong in killing the college game as a national product. So would the alliance be a strong enough product to go their own way and leave the SEC to feed on itself? I love your conversations on all that is college football. I will never forgive Danny for choosing both Miami and Florida in your most recent team draft.
Sorry.
I mean,
he's trying to win. I mean, I don't think it's
crazy.
I don't think it's crazy, though.
If we really spin this down the line, the one issue that I could see being the true dividing line is if the SEC says compensation, like salaries. Like, maybe Lane gets his wish and there is a salary cap, but just we are not even like we are going to treat them officially in the same way that we treat all of these other university employees. We are going to compensate them well. They are going to have revenue sharing from our television deal. It is a semi-professional outfit. And I think that could be a dividing line between the SEC and the alliance. Now, as we're spinning it down the line, does that mean that the SEC poaches a few other schools that are currently in the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12? Like, okay, who wants to play this big boy ball over here? But I don't think it is a crazy scenario to envision that, again, way down the line, we are talking about college football in the terms of having multiple leagues that declare national champions.
Yeah, because there's been the reporting when the SEC added Oklahoma and Texas, one of the books that Sankey read that kind of inspired the move was The Club, which is about kind of like the history of the Premier League. And English soccer was kind of like college football in that all these leagues, yes, there was promotion relegation, but they were kind of like conferences, and they were all part of the same quote unquote larger league. But then the Premier League kind of split off, started doing its own television deals, kind of started doing all that other stuff, which is kind of what this person's saying. The SEC breaks off and not only becomes its own conference and becomes its own league, which, like you said, I don't think that's crazy. I think that could happen. I don't think it's likely. The part of the scenario I disagree with is if the SEC did do that, I don't think the Big Ten's staying with the Pac-12 and the ACC and doing their own league with the Alliance. I think the Big Ten would just do the exact same thing the SEC did, because I don't think the ACC and Pac-12 would be bringing any additional value to what the Big Ten can get on its own.
It would only be that you could declare a national champion. You got to have a nation. It can't just be like, even because the SEC gets Texas and Oklahoma. This, I guess, would involve even further SEC expansion.
The SEC can't be a national champion either because it's only a certain portion of the country. It'd be the Southeastern, Western champion. I don't know, but I think that's not going to matter to them nearly as much as how much money can we get out of this as possible. And I think that the Big Ten would say, hey, look, Pac-12, we love you. ACC, we love you. We're all friends. Let's all still play basketball and all that kind of stuff together. But the truth is the TV deals we would get with you guys for football that we have to split between all of us would not be nearly as much as if we just do it on our own.
Don't you think, I'll ask you guys a question, because I hear frustration from a lot of coaches across the country of there's no structure, there's no guidelines. NIL is the wild, wild west, and now we have transferring, free agency. It's a wild, wild west. Who's going to step up? Who would you expect to step up and provide the structure? And how does that even work? Because the NCAA could, but you don't really have to follow it. If it was an NIL structure, in that one, I think they're all afraid to touch because they're just like, hey, if we put any guard, like we're all going to get exposed. And then the coaches, like that hypocrisy unfolds. But like of the most likely person, isn't it Greg Sankey? Isn't that so obvious that he's the one that would like step up in this time of uncertainty and say, all right, enough is enough. We do not want to let this get back to the Supreme Court. We don't want politicians determining what our league is going to look like. and we can't sit around and wait. So I'm going to do it. And in that process, if you did it, I think it would look something like he suggested. Now, and then that's where I go back to Tom's point. I think we just lost with some internet issues. Of then the Big Ten does something in response, and they say, "Okay, we're gonna do the same thing. Like, you guys are gonna crown your champion. You're gonna be a pro league, and you're gonna unionize, and you're gonna pay your players. But we're not just gonna stand by and watch." And then I think, like, I've always thought, like, we would have 4 super conferences. Maybe it's 2.
Yeah.
You know,
And
then
then it's like we're gonna have the 2 champions play each other.
Which would be awesome. Which would be great.
How the Super Bowl started? We had like 2 professional leagues, and they each declared their champion and decided they would meet. That's when I spun this forward, I was thinking, like, okay, I could see it happening. And there would be all of these, like, all this name calling of, like, we do it the right way, you guys do it the right way. And it would just be a culture war every college football national championship between the SEC champion and the Alliance champion in this college Super Bowl type environment.
What I miss?
I agree with what you were saying. Like I said, I think if there's anybody that would take the bull by the horns, it would be Sankey, because it looks like he's already kind of jockeying for position. And I believe a lot of the stuff about the influence the book had and on soccer. But I think he's trying to look forward in the future, whereas too many people, Kevin Warren, other commissioners, are kind of reacting. Okay, oh, we have to do NIL? Okay, well, we're going to let it happen. You know, like, and he's thinking, how do I get in front of this? Because I don't want to let it get to the courts. And I think he would be the guy, the most likely character that would come in and say, well, I don't want to react. I want to be proactive. So I want to get out ahead of this. So I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing. I'm going to build up the SEC, make it as strong as possible so that in, 2026, the TV contracts are up?
Yep.
So that we can position ourselves in the strongest place to make the most amount of money. And it's going to be a boatload of money. And that's where I think they can go to the TVs and the TV companies and say, yeah, we're going to have to pay our players because it's so much money. And I don't think it'll be an issue. Like, there'll be plenty of money to go around. It's just a matter of, we use that term, the haves and have-nots, a lot. What is it going to look like, the haves and have-nots? Who does the SEC decide to collect? Who does the Big Ten decide to collect? Like, who remains at the forefront of college football and who falls by the wayside? And ironic, I don't know if this is coincidence or not, but don't you feel like around 32 programs probably fit the bill? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 16 in the SEC, 16 in the Big Ten, and they kind of fit that bill. Now, what gets interesting is the SEC is currently constituted. Is that every program in there? Like, do you try to weed out some of the bottom dwellers? Same thing in the Big Ten,
I don't know. Those bottom dwellers just all finished in the top 32 of the 24/7 Sports composite talent rank. I mean, I'm thinking more of like the, is that where Oregon separates from Oregon State? Like, is that where, some of these programs that we look at as like, wow, like, it's cool, the history, like the way that they really lean in on it. But in terms of being a television product and in terms of what's going to drive the most revenue, it's not bringing a ton to the table.